Hey guys, I'm Alex,
And I'm Drew.
and today on the Two Man Comic Book Club podcast, we're talking about WandaVision because we can't get enough of it. Let's go. Drew, something's different again.
No. Yeah, we're just, if you're anywhere close to us, we are in the southern Midwest, whatever you would call it, the Ozarks. And we've recently had some weather. So just to be safe, we were like, hey, what if we do this remote? And it's been months since we tried to do a remote episode. And I think I managed to forget literally everything that we figured out about it.
Oh yeah.
So
Saying that we have had some weather is an understatement. It is currently 18 degrees outside, which I don't know. Maybe some of you are from colder parts of the region and you just are used to weather like that. But it's been like icy, and we have like a snowstorm coming. And apparently Tuesday, the low is going to be negative 11. Was the most recent
negative double digits.
Yeah,
that's news to me.
And that's the actual temperature. The feels like said negative 22. With more snow coming, so we don't get winters like that anymore.
No.
So this is definitely not something we're used to. Most of the roads are okay, but there are some side roads that are pretty gross, and we've even heard about some unfortunate passings in my town. So better safe than sorry. We're doing this one remote.
And because of that, we've really dialed in Alex's kitchen for how to make that as pristine of an environment as we can. But now Alex is in his office. I'm in my office. I've got a guy who has a spaceship next door who just starts it up at random times, and it scares me awake.
Yeah.
And it's really cold, so I didn't turn my heater off. So we might have some extra sounds. Just consider it ambiance. Welcome to our offices.
Yeah, welcome to the real world. This is where we do our 9 to 5s. Can you hear that? My heater just came on.
Oh, there it was, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of real world.
Yeah, I was going to use that as a segue to WandaVision, but we have something we always do first. What you been reading, yo?
I just finished the Avengers Disassembled event that I told you I've been working on that leads into House of M, which, for those of you that don't know, that is the loose basis for WandaVision. Well, I won't even go as far as to say it's that much of a thing, but they've definitely hinted at some events that happened in that. So I thought, I'm going to go back and read that so I can catch everything. Now, what has happened is I've fallen into the trap of all these other tie-ins that I just realized happened. So basically, Avengers Disassembled happens, and then there's 6 months worth of comics, and then House of M happens. So there's a lot of good stuff in that 6 months, and I also don't want to just like skip it in case something came on. So I'm like hardcore devouring basically all Marvel comics that happened in that 6-month period that are available on Marvel Unlimited. I think as of right now, let me check. I just read the first 5 issues of New X-Men Academy X, and it is it's good. It's surprisingly good. It's a little more lighthearted. It follows a group of mutants that most of you will have not heard of as they are settling into Xavier's school academy for mutants, and some of the high school drama that ensues with the different cliques and how everybody adapts to adjusting to learn how to control their powers. So surprisingly good. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I was like, if Comic Book Herald, which is my resource for all my comics lists that I want to watch, if they recommend it, I'm gonna give it a go. So I've been pleasantly surprised with it. That's basically it, though. I mean, to say that's it is not correct, because reading all the disassembled events required me to read Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and Avengers books. So I've read a lot, just one focal point focused event. What about you, Drew?
I'm a bad boy. I've not read comics.
Yeah, you are.
But I've been writing a lot of music, doing that instead, and also watching a whole lot of Star Trek. I made it all the way through the original series and the original series movies, and now I'm about 2 seasons into the Next Generation. I'm not going to watch everything again.
Seems impossible.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I watched Deep Space Nine for the first time and Enterprise for the first time. And then I went back and watched the new shows that have come out. And that made me want to watch the original series. And I'm like, might as well watch Next Generation again. And I'm going to go ahead and rewatch Voyager as well.
Right.
And then take me into the season of Discovery that I haven't seen.
For sure.
So that's been where I've been nerding out and continuing to read that Stephen King novella collection. I'm almost done with that one.
Nice. We didn't also mention that, unfortunately, it was difficult. I don't know, maybe you mentioned this and I blacked out, but Tori is not with us today.
Yeah. We were going to try to get him in, but God, we were having a hard enough time just getting two of us because I thought I could use my nice camera as a webcam to where we would be able to just run the audio from this mic and that camera right into Zoom, and it would do the switching itself. But apparently all of the Panasonics are capable of doing that except for mine.
Of course.
So
well, mine usually works with that, but we started having problems with that as well.
Yeah.
So we just had about an hour and a half worth of technical difficulties interspaced with people trying to contact and call us as well.
Yeah. I could have just driven there and we could have done it live.
Yeah. Speaking of, Rodney, if you're watching this, which I know you are, we've decided your mundane superpower is that you contact me every single time we're recording without knowing we're recording.
You're going to be our watchtower.
Yeah, I've spoken.
Are very distracting and not actually help us get, beat the bad guys watchtower.
Yeah.
So really on brand for our mundane superhero team.
I will say it's almost always comic book related when he does text me.
Okay.
He basically made an emoji version of Vision and said, "Who is this?"
Okay.
Yeah, it was good.
So this is how it goes down with Rodney. Mm-hmm. We are in the middle of, let's just say, I'm going to, since we're in WandaVision mode, we're in MCU mode. We are fighting, let's just say Thanos. Okay.
Yeah.
Me and you are fighting Thanos. Mm-hmm. And Rodney, our watchtower, is sending us memes about Galactus.
Right.
He's like, check this out. So it's like really.
He's going to eat all our planets.
Yeah, this is funny. I'm like, a little busy, Rodney.
Right. Yeah.
So
but we
thanks,
still love
Rodney.
you, Rodney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been reading much, but I will tell you, I've been not just watching once, but re-watching all the episodes of WandaVision.
I thought about doing that this morning, but then I watched more Star Trek.
It'd be like that sometimes.
So.
I think we're just going to dive right in because there's a lot to discuss.
If there were ever episodes I wanted to go back and rewatch before we covered them, it was the last two, specifically the one before. Like, we are recording Saturday, February the 13th.
Yes.
So 2 weeks ago, we had a bomb dropped on us. And I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's give some spoiler warnings.
Yes, so if you have not seen the first 6 episodes of WandaVision, this is your spoiler warning. We are going to spoil all over it. It's just gonna be like that.
Yeah. So we covered 3 with Nick, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm a bad
so after
comic book
3
host. I don't remember what happened in 4.
4 was the 80s episode. No, 70s episode where we got some Family Ties vibes and she had the babies. Right.
Oh, is that right?
No. 4 wasn't. Yeah, 4 was the one where we recap everything from Sword's perspective.
Oh,
right?
that's what it was. That's why I couldn't remember, because it wasn't. We didn't continue the narrative of the different TV shows. We got behind the scenes. So yeah, man. As I was sitting watching episode 4, I told Holly, I was just like, I would have been way more shocked at how this unfolded had we not had that conversation, because a lot of that wasn't even on my radar. Like, I didn't think any of that until you and Nick were talking about it, and I was just like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I kept imagining it was something being imposed on them.
Right. Yeah, so much has happened, so if somehow you have only been getting a recap of WandaVision through us, first, I'm sorry. That's unfortunate. But second, we're in a completely different space now than we were in the first 3 episodes. Well, I shouldn't say completely different, but a lot more has been unveiled. But also, I have more questions than ever. especially after last night's episode. So we just got episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we should just start from the first bomb that was dropped in episode 5.
Yeah, we almost did an impromptu just mini-sode last week because I was like, dude, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this right now.
Right.
But life happens. We got busy, and we just saved it for this week's.
Right. So Pietro is back in the MCU, except it is the Peter Maximoff from the Fox X-Men verse. That Quicksilver. And, I had a feeling something like this would happen, but I just didn't know that, like, that's exactly how it would happen. I don't know. I felt like...
I wasn't ready for it. Like, I knew that they were coming.
Right.
I knew we were getting the X-Men. I knew that it was getting folded in, but, like, of all the people coming to the door, like, my mind was running through who it might have been, because it was a big reveal at the end of the episode. Somebody was knocking at the door. She opens it up, and they give multiple, like, gags where you, like, think you're going to see him, and then they don't, and then all of a sudden it shows him, and it's not who you expect it to be. And I was not expecting an X-Man.
Right.
I was not expecting, and I definitely wasn't expecting one that had already been cast as that character in another film franchise, which we've already seen some on. What was it? J. Jonah Jameson at the end of the last Spider-Man movie came from
J.K. Simmons.
The Raimi verse. Or was it the Sam Raimi?
Yep, Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Yep.
So so it could be that it's what did I say? It might just be one of those strange coincidences of the multiverse. Like, if there's enough of these multiverse layers that there's going to be J.K. Simmons playing Jameson in multiple universes.
Right.
So it could be, my first thought is maybe, either everybody's coming over, or maybe this is just one of those, like, this guy's going to happen to be, but it doesn't necessarily mean Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Right, yeah, so that's what we're trying to figure out is, I mean, there's more to talk about when we get into episode 6, and we'll dive into that in a second, but let's just focus on the fact that Quicksilver from the Fox franchises is in the MCU now.
Excuse all this noise. I forgot that I took notes to talk about, and they're all underneath a bunch of crap on my desk.
I always forget his name. So Evan Peters is the actor that plays the Fox now MCU Quicksilver, but the guy before Age of Ultron, that is played by, where is he? Oh yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I always forget his name. So he was also in that that superhero film Kick-Ass, if you guys haven't seen that. And funny enough, so was Evan Peters. They were both in that film, and they were best friends in that film. And now they've both played Quicksilver in the MCU. So if you don't recall, maybe some of you don't, at the end of Age of Ultron, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Quicksilver, dies. And now he's brought back, but it's the Evan Peters version of that character in the MCU. And we don't really have an explanation of why. All we know is that they've acknowledged that Wanda is warping reality and kind of making things happen her way. And he's just back, and then the episode ends. And she looks like slightly confused, but then gives him a hug. And they even acknowledge, they have Darcy go, did she just recast Vision? Which was super fourth wall, meta breaking type of thing. And then it just ends, and we're just like left to speculate for a week, which is very cruel.
I wonder if they would have decided to use the term recast if the whole premise of this show was based around TV shows,
right?
And it existing with actors and stuff like that. So maybe that's how they felt confident being able to use that term.
Well, that's just it. They're kind of using that as a tool of like ambiguity of what they're doing, because we still don't know. Even after, I thought episode 6 we get way more context. No, I'm more confused after episode 6 than I am in a good way. As soon as yesterday's episode ended, I was like, please don't make me wait a week for more. I need it right now.
So I took note of one thing that happened as soon as he showed up. He looks over and makes his joke. Who's the popsicle? pointing to Vision because Vision had his red stuff
Right.
on. So that right there made me instantly think, okay, this Quicksilver doesn't have any idea who the Avengers are.
Right.
So that feels relevant, because like we keep wondering, how are the X-Men going to get folded in? Is it going to be something happens and it's like they've always been there, or is something going to happen where all of a sudden they start from zero? So that makes me think that unless this is just Wanda being like, something happens, though we kind of gather by the end of episode 6, she doesn't know where he came from either, that at least that Quicksilver has no idea who the Avengers are. So it makes me think that maybe X-Men are coming from a different reality for
Right.
real, as opposed to just like blinking them into existence and, hey, we've been here, we know all this crap.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It is important to note, I think, that it was revealed that maybe it was just a closed captioning. I can't remember exactly, but for the episode, whenever he is revealed, like it shows him on screen, for either the closed captioning or the subtitles, the official subtitle says Quicksilver from the X-Men universe appears at the door. So somebody that is in charge of typing that and there are two schools of thought here. So either that is a direct acknowledgement from Disney that this is for sure the Quicksilver that was in those films and not just a recasting, or in the righteous attempt, I believe, to make sure that those with impairments that can't see or hear or whatever the reason is get the same sort of shock that we did.
Everybody else did, yeah.
They put it in that context anyway, because that's why it was shocking, right? Because we've already seen him. So it makes sense that they would notate that the same way, so that people who don't have the ability to take in that content like we do can also have the same shock, But it is an interesting thing because we still don't know. We don't know if this is the Quicksilver from the X-Men films that's gone through all that stuff and remembers all that stuff, or if they were like, man, he did such a good job, let's just recast him here and pretend that other stuff is different universe. But then again, we're getting into multiverse stuff, so it's hard to tell if both of those answers are the same.
Not that this is multiverse; it's more just time. But if we were to try to draw a direct parallel, like all of a sudden during the snap, or because Wanda does something, the X-Men exist. That's the Quicksilver from the James McAvoy era,
right?
Which would have been 70s or 80s, right?
Both. His first appearance was X-Men Days of Future Past, which takes place in the 70s, and then he is in the next two X-Men films, which respectively take place in the 80s and the 90s.
Okay.
That episode took place in the 80s.
So it could be that, because what I was going to get at is, if we were to follow the same logical progression, we are in the Patrick Stewart era right now, because we are long past James McAvoy's look, and those two exist in the same movies,
right,
in the X-Men universe. So technically, we should be in the Patrick Stewart part of the X-Men if we were going to follow that same continuity. But Alex made a comment whenever I was talking to him that Quicksilver also showed up in the 80s episode.
Right.
So it could be that whenever they come out of it, we are back in 2020, 2021.
Yep.
And
I think 2023 was like where Sword is at right now.
But also, Patrick Stewart's looking old. I can't see him taking over as Xavier again. I would love it, but I can't see it. So I'm wondering what that all means. What did Pietro show up? Peter show up from the 80s because he existed in the 80s in that body?
Right.
Or was it more like, hey, this happened, but whenever we come out, these are the actors we're going to be pulling from.
Right.
We are going to be in the First Class, Days of Future Past, Dark Phoenix type of
the second iteration of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Right.
So
sorry, we're going to break the fourth
wondering.
wall. How are we doing on time real quick?
We got 6 or 7 minutes.
Okay, just let me know when we need to take a break.
Yeah.
I will say that this also throws a wrench in the time travel mess of this thing, even though at the end of the day, I think it is important to acknowledge that her literal powers let her warp reality. So she's allowed to break any rule she wants and it just be. But the whole premise of Days of Future Past, where we first see Evan Peters as Quicksilver, is that Logan goes back and changes the future for everyone so that when and if he succeeds, which he does, there's a new timeline that only he will remember the remnants of what happened before. But like that movie closes, if you haven't seen Days of Future Past, with everybody back from the OG X-Men films, like living large. But I also got to believe that didn't erase everybody that was in the 70s, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. They also make the argument in that film, the time travel argument, that time is like a flowing river and that you can create waves in it, but other than creating a ripple, like if you throw a stone in a river, you might move some water in a different current, but eventually it's going to correct itself, and time is going to, the events that were going to happen are going to happen. That water's still going to be down the stream eventually.
Concept of destiny and fate being a thing.
Right. So
not just butterfly effect.
Right. Yeah. It's, they kind of did a little bit of both, I think. I mean, because he for sure changed the past. Changed the past and affected the future in that film.
Yeah. So it's a different branch.
Right. But. So, yeah, it's just so much. And I don't know. I'll say, let's go ahead and take a break so we can reset our cameras real quick, because then I want to get directly into episode 6 and why I have some confusion and some questions. Cool. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back, and I want to get right into episode 6 of WandaVision. So there's a lot of cool stuff that happens here. First, love that they went and put on the retro uniforms as Halloween costumes, and then they found a way to play off them as like their normal things. Like they called Vision a Mexican luchador, and she claimed that she was like a Sokovian
fortune teller.
Fortune teller, right? So good. And then also we get to see Tommy and Billy gain their powers in this episode, which was another cool thing.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Is that how Quicksilver looks in the olden days?
Oh, yeah.
In the comics?
I'll put it up on the screen right now. Okay. But it's funny because I just read the last Avengers comic from Disassembled, and he shows up in that exact
outfit.
I
had a feeling. I just wasn't sure.
The color scheme and everything. Really cool. But yeah, we see little Billy and Tommy get their powers, and it's kind of like they've been going through the genres, right? So we're in the 90s now. And
Malcolm in the Middle.
Malcolm in the Middle is absolutely what they're doing.
The commitment, like everything, the way that Bobby or Billy or Tommy or whoever it was talking to the camera, you know, I was just like, yeah, it's Malcolm. And even the musical cues.
Oh, yeah.
And like the end credits, I was like, I feel like I'm watching. Is that on your end or my end?
I'm hearing it. I think that's on yours.
It's an airplane. I live by an airplane.
I usually don't hear them that well.
Yeah.
On your end.
What was I saying? Oh, but yeah, the commitment to the Malcolm in the Middle, like I felt like I was watching an episode.
Right.
And can I derail the conversation for just a second and say that one of my favorite fan theories, because we never learn the last name of the family in Malcolm in the Middle. I like to imagine, even though, you know, maybe we don't know the dad's middle name, but I want to believe that the dad on Malcolm in the Middle eventually leaves that family or whatever, moves to Albuquerque, and becomes a chemistry teacher and becomes Walter White.
Wow, you think that Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad are in the same universe?
Yeah. I feel like I heard a story where at the very, like there was a deleted scene or like an alternate ending of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Where Bryan Cranston woke up dressed like Hal from Malcolm in the Middle. It was like, oh, it was all a bad dream.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's true, but I choose to believe that it's in the box set of Breaking Bad somewhere.
Yeah, that would be a wild turn of events, I think, if that were to be the case.
Hal would never leave that. Hal was an amazing dad on Malcolm in the Middle. He wouldn't just randomly leave the family to become a meth dealer or a meth chef.
Right.
But anyway, I like to imagine that.
Yeah. So the reason that I'm so confused. Okay, we'll get to the main happenings of WandaVision. You know, there's some definite drama to end it. You know, there are things on the side of Sword are not going so well. Jimmy Woo, Darcy, and Monica Rambeau are kind of teaming up doing a thing, but I forget his name, the guy in charge of Sword is like done with him, trying to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has them leave the base after some kind of quippy conversations they have. For sure, yeah, he attempts to get them out, and then they end up staying and finding more information. But throughout this thing, it's Halloween, so Wanda and Pietro are taking Billy and Tommy out for trick-or-treating. And I will note also, it's important, we finally saw some kids inside, and they even mention it.
Yeah, I turned to Holly at one point. I was like, "There's kids. There were never kids before." And then maybe 2 minutes later, Pietro comments on it.
Right. So. I will say it felt like Pietro was acting as a proxy for us at some points. Like Peter, we're just going to say Peter and Pietro interchangeably because they are the same character. Pietro was legitimately asking and acknowledging questions that I had, like exact questions to Wanda. And at one point he's like asking her, like, where have you been keeping all these kids this whole time? You know, this was one of the more wall-breaking episodes, I think, in my opinion, without them actually looking down the barrel of the lens.
Him specifically.
Yeah.
Peter.
Like asking how he got here, asking her, trying to figure out how she got here. There was just all these questions being asked that she doesn't have an answer to. So we get this weird contrast because we know that she's in control, but she doesn't know how she's in control, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But the thing that took me to a whole other place that caught me the most off guard is we get another moment that we've already had with Vision where Wanda looks away for a second while talking to Pietro and looks back and he's dead. Like, it's grayed out body. He's got bullet wounds in the same place that the MCU Pietro had at the end of Age of Ultron, which I think is exactly why they showed in that little previously on the Avengers thing. They showed MCU Pietro, Aaron Taylor Johnson Pietro, die, and then we see Evan Peters Pietro dead with the same bullet wounds and all grayed out, kind of like we saw Vision. So everybody's argument has been that she has reanimated Vision, and that we kind of know that that's what is going on because she took his body, and they kind of verify it even more because at the end of this episode it ends with Vision trying to break out of the barrier that he's in, and when he breaks through, he starts dying because he's not in her reality anymore, and that's what's keeping her alive. And the whole thing ends with her realizing what's happening, and she uses her powers and expands her reality even further out. That
far out.
If Vision's here dying, she finally expands it to where he lives, and the whole thing ends.
And there was okay. I have two things.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say the one about Peter. I had a thought in the middle of it, and I don't know if I still believed it, but I was wondering if somehow Peter was an implant from Sword. Like they found somebody who happened to be a speedster, and maybe it's one of those coincidences. He happens to look like an MCU or the X-Men universe guy, but really he's just some rando that happens to have superpowers that they told him everything he needed to know. He's in there trying to figure stuff out for Sword, but then there were also some things that made me think, no, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, well, it's also weird that she saw him as dead.
Yeah,
right. Because now it feels like a recast more than this is Peter. So they called him Peter in the X-Men verse. Maybe that's going to be an easier way for us to differentiate. Pietro's the one that died. Peter is the one that came from the X verse. If she just saw him as dead, or at least that's how I don't see another way we can interpret that she saw him with the same wounds, unless she's literally projecting that memory onto new Peter, which who knows, maybe that's the way they're taking this thing. But if if she has reanimated him, then they are doing a true recasting.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a coincidence.
And it's just a coincidence that he was in the Foxverse.
Yeah.
But also, I need to know why bring him in unless they're just trying to do some storytelling. If they're gonna, I don't know. I guess we need to see if Vision's gonna make it out of this thing alive. Yeah. Like, is this series the last time we're gonna see Vision? Well, also in the comics, Vision does die and become this white dead thing that has the same powers and the abilities, but he completely loses his personality that he has. Which, again, there are more theories now that this is going to be a reason for them to bring in Wonder Man and give Vision powers or his personality later. I don't know. There's a whole rabbit hole that we could dive down to, but we've only got so much time. You had another question.
The second thing, yeah. Well, it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
Did you notice what Agnes was dressed as?
Yes, a witch.
A witch. But she seemed totally clueless. So
right.
maybe she's not Agatha, or she's just a really good actress in this thing.
A third option, maybe Wanda's just controlling her more than we thought.
Yeah.
Wanda is for sure stronger than Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness is weak, but
when I saw her trying to leave, I was like, this doesn't feel like they are a team, a duo trying to put this together anymore. So I don't know.
Right. And it's weird because she seemed fully confused, and then Vision was able to like take her out of the trance for a second and then put her back in.
You're like, wait, you're dead. Does that mean I'm dead? And then Vision starts freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Vision doesn't even know what an Avenger is.
Right. Yeah, so he has no memory beyond what's happened in this bubble. Mm-hmm. I just don't know what direction they're going in now. This episode, more than anything, felt like Marvel was going to be like, we're going to hold the sheet over your eyes for one more episode. Yeah. Because we've only got 3 left. I mean, they got to...
What's the neighbor guy's name? He was dressed as Frankenstein. Herb. Yeah. So I saw more, like, whenever she was talking to him, and he was just, like, bending over backwards, because he was just like, oh, I need to keep Wanda happy. Do you need me to do something different? You know, like...
Right.
So I was just like, wow, okay. So the people
which is the same thing that Agnes did in episode 5 that we didn't talk about.
Take it again from the top? Yeah.
Yeah, she just kind of broke character and acknowledged who's in control. Mm-hmm. And also Wanda's been doing magic around her, and the kids have been doing magic around her and all this stuff, and she just like doesn't care. Yeah. She's, not weirded out by it. I feel like I'm stumbling over talking points, but that's how I felt after I left the episode. Like, in a good way, I wanted more, but I feel like I'm in the middle of a very masterful sleight of hand trick, and somebody has my wallet, and I don't know who has it. And I know I'm going to get it back, and it's going to be worth it, but it is a very confusing time to be in the MCU right now.
Yeah. Because it's the converging of worlds.
We had a reference to Monica Rambeau's other person that's going to help her get back into the bubble, and I cannot figure out who that could possibly be. But I have theories that I've read on the internet, but I don't know if I buy any of them. But they're better than anything that I can come up with. So a popular one that I don't think is Reid Richards. They're already like trying to introduce Monica Rambeau as a dominant character as Spectrum. Kind of passively bringing in Reid Richards just doesn't feel like how a character of that magnitude is going to be brought into this. There are 2 other ones that seem possibly more likely. Rhodey, Iron Patriot, War Machine. A lot of people think it might be him, because they referred to him as an aerospace engineer. And then for the same reason, a lot of people think it might be Sam Wilson, which I think is maybe the most likely, because they might be trying to get him a little wink before Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out. But
maybe it's Green Lantern.
That would be acceptable as long as it's Ryan Reynolds variant.
Yeah.
I just don't know who it's going to be, but they've referenced the character enough over the last few episodes, then I think it has to be somebody significant.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a
I mean,
mutant.
Would it not just? I mean, I don't know that Carol Danvers. I mean, she wasn't an aerospace engineer. She was just a pilot, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Before everything happened.
The only reason that Sam Wilson kind of makes sense is because I think he helped design those wings, which sounds like a very aerospace engineer thing to do. But I don't know. I mean, so many of the characters in the Marvel universe are classified as geniuses. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have that. I've also heard a theory that Riri Williams could be the person. She's getting her own show. Like Ironheart is coming to Disney Plus. They've already confirmed and announced that. So maybe. But also her whole origin is like she's 14 and in MIT. I doubt she's an aerospace engineer at this point and going to, I don't think they're going to skip her whole origin just to bring her in at this point in WandaVision. So I don't know who it is, but I think it's going to be somebody important. Maybe it's a good thing that I don't know. I'm finally going to be like truly surprised by what happens. So yeah, do you have any more thoughts on this? I mean, it's episode 6 was really good. It was one of my favorites for sure, but I am absolutely finished that episode with more questions than I had answers from the previous episode.
I mean, I keep going back to all my wondering, is it a red herring, or does that really mean that the X-Men universe is coming in as cast?
Right.
Is Hugh Jackman Wolverine still?
Right.
Do we have a Xavier that we already knew? Or, because I mean, that original crew, that would be kind of the right age now.
Right.
A lot of those people are getting kind of old.
Right.
And I don't know that they would want to be like, yeah, okay, I'll sign on to this
for a decade.
Mammoth of a show. So it makes more sense to do the McAvoy era characters. But I wonder if any of those even want to get in on another whole round of all of this.
Yeah, and eventually, I told Katie this the other day, eventually they're going to have to blow this whole thing up and start over. Yeah. And I don't think that's going to be like within the next 10 or maybe even 20 years. It might be like we have 20 years and then they go, boom, let's go tell the Tony Stark and Steve Rogers origin stories again. Now that we own everything and we can do a civil war like the comic books had, and not just 12 people on screen fighting each other, but hundreds, I will throw out another, I just remember, I don't know why I forgot this. There is a theory that isn't the worst theory I've ever heard, but I don't think it's going to come to fruition. There's a theory that Peter from the Fox series is Mephisto. And that he is like I don't know, it just, for those of you that don't know much about Mephisto, I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast, we talked about him a little bit in the Doctor Strange series. By the way, we said something about that series that has been on my chest. I gotta clean up. Mephisto took Doctor Doom's mother, not his lover. That was his mother, Cecilia. We were incorrect about that. But anyway, if they bring Mephisto in here, here's how I think they should do it if they're going to go that route. First off, bringing in Mephisto now is nearing the equivalent of bringing in a character like Doctor Doom or Galactus or, a major villain. Like right now, it doesn't seem the pacing. We didn't see Thanos until Avengers. That was the first time we saw Thanos. It was several films into the whole thing. If they're going to bring in Mephisto, it needs to be in the flavor of WandaVision Season 1 ends, and we finally get a post-credits scene of Agatha Harkness going and talking to Mephisto, and he makes some comment about, like, everything's going according to plan. We've already planted the children. Because in the comics, Billy and Tommy come from Mephisto. Mephisto grants powers, and, like, I don't know if it's, like, part of his soul or some of his magic, but he is directly responsible for helping create those two boys for Wanda. And he takes them away eventually, which is why she starts breaking into madness, and the House of M events start happening, I believe. So maybe if we're playing long ball, like we get some Mephisto at the very end of this, but it seems unlikely that not only did they bring in Peter from the X-Men, Peter Maximoff, I should say, not Peter Colossus, just to make him Mephisto so that we can, I don't know, that seems like a lot to juggle and like make sense of.
Yeah.
But it is a theory that's bouncing around out there. And a lot of people have noticed like Mephisto, Devil, and the detail winks thing throughout this. And then also the Loki trailer has a big stained glass piece with, for sure, Mephisto's in this stained glass thing in the background. So maybe he is going to be the next big bad for a while. But it's an interesting choice too, Mephisto. You know, like they could go Doctor Doom, they could go Galactus, they could go a bunch of different routes other than Mephisto. But I mean, hey, I'm not Kevin Feige. I'm not writing these checks and making the decisions. So, what else you got, man? I'm just ready for more. I need more.
Yeah. How many episodes are left?
There are 3 left.
Okay.
And then we wait 2 weeks, and we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then we wait
I
a
haven't even
month
tried
after
to keep up
that,
with any of that.
and we get Black Widow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we got a pretty frequent palette of stuff coming
waited
out.
for a year or more, and now it's
Yeah.
starting to get
like
backlog.
There's basically something like every month or so. Like Loki comes out soon after that, and then the Eternals. Miss Marvel's coming out at the end of the year. Spider-Man's coming out at the end of the year. It's going to be a lot. I don't have anything else if you don't. I'm just, like I said, I'm ready for more. I'm confused. Yep. I need to read more comics to learn what I'm looking at.
Sounds like you read an entire comic store since we recorded last. Meanwhile, I haven't even opened an app. So
as soon as you're off here, I'm giving you homework. Go read Avengers Disassembled. It's about 20 comics. You could do it.
Cool.
Cool. Well, Drew, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Drew Morris Comp on Twitter, Drew Morris Composer elsewhere. What about you?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Alex Wayne Miller. Wayne is Wayne, just like Bruce Wayne, because I am Batman. What about us?
And reach out to us on Twitter at 2Man Comic Book with the number 2. Instagram, Facebook, 2Man Comic Book Club, also with the number 2. You can find our blog where we post this stuff and occasional other things, 2mancomicbookclub.blogspot.com. And also definitely check out our videos on YouTube. So,
for sure.
Oh, by the way, we had a nice talking about the Vision run. Tom King retweeted us.
Ah, yes. If you are
creator.
not familiar, the writer of the Vision series from 2015 that we just covered, he saw our tweet about his run and he retweeted us, and it got a lot of traction. So hopefully we got some new views and some listens after that. I will
if you're here as a result of Tom King's tweet, let us know. Either shoot us a tweet yourself or leave a comment on YouTube or leave us a review.
Yes. I will say before we get off here, I'm sorry that we're behind on the YouTube videos. My plate got overwhelmingly full over the past few weeks. I'm working on that. We'll be caught up very soon. Other than that, that's all I got. We'll see you guys next time, and keep watching WandaVision, keep reading comics.
Yeah. Sorry for all the extra noise. I can hear engines or something right now, so just I hope you enjoyed this ambiance-filled episode.
Yeah, it was all good. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. And hitting stop.